чужим діткам дулі-дулі.
Gear up. May the 4th be with you, man. We got a great show. I'm really excited. Let's learn about Pendulum. Interoperable blockchain. Brings together high quality fiat tokens in a single powerful DeFi network. Let's go.
Going to happen with the project Jump Cannon. For Pendulum itself, we look at the different developments in the smart contract space. And of course, you have two big players here. You have the EVM smart contracts, which is the history, and that was the big milestone for smart contracts themselves. And most smart contracts are, of course, developed for EVM. So you have a really wide code base, a really great ecosystem, very, very powerful tools and projects. And of course, we want to support them. But on the other hand, I see a lot of, I see that there's a big future for WebAssembly smart contracts. Like EVM was the first generation, and I feel like the second generation could be WebAssembly smart contracts because they are more efficient and there are way more tools and execution engines for WebAssembly. For example, in the browser, there's a lot of development behind that, of course. And it will be a technology that is not just used in the blockchain world, but also in the web development world, in browsers, and so on. So I see a big, bright future for WebAssembly. I think it's a great execution engine for smart contracts.
So we're actually just about to publish a blog post. Maybe by the time we publish this video, it will already be out, in which we talk a bit about the different technologies that we looked at. And we're definitely focusing on Wasm. For the future, we think it's just a really great infrastructure layer to build on top of for the future.
That's a great announcement. So I was really curious about what you're pursuing, and I definitely congratulate you to this decision.
Well, wow, I thought that was pretty interesting because at that time, you had no idea that Tomer and the SDF were in the middle of making that sort of decision to use the WebAssembly smart system. And that was your first time actually hearing it on that podcast, correct?
That's totally correct, Sam. So as I already said, I'm very bullish on WebAssembly smart contracts. And of course, I was aware that Stellar is working on smart contract technology, which is very exciting. But I did have no clue what kind of technology they're going to use. And I'm really excited about that. And of course, I have a lot to talk about this today.
Good. Well, for everyone watching in, we got Torsten. He is the CTO for Pendulum. That is a very exciting project. I remember when this was announced, I want to say later part of last year. It was exciting, I think, to a lot of us because, while DeFi has been around for a while, it's mainly been, I guess you can say, crypto to crypto assets, primarily. And what really got my interest with the Pendulum project was the fact that there was a strong focus on bringing some real world assets into this realm. And I'm really excited to learn more about it. But let's start from the beginning before we hop into all this great news. I'm curious of your background and how you got introduced into Satoshi Pay and Stellar, because if I'm not mistaken, Satoshi Pay actually was originally looking to do micropayments on Bitcoin, so on the Bitcoin network. So I'm curious to know kind of your background and the history of Satoshi Pay to now.
Sure. So that's already quite a long history. You were totally right. I joined Satoshi Pay 4.5 years ago, and there was a lot happening in the meantime. But really, let me start at the beginning. So I have a computer science background. Of course, that's the right background for a CTO. Before I became a CTO, I actually first started to work in academia, actually for 7 years. I was super interested in research. I wanted to look at cutting edge research. I wanted to really know what developments we can make happen. And I worked in natural language processing, machine translation, and particularly theoretical computer science. Theoretical computer science is actually very challenging, but I really wanted to pursue those challenges, and I found it very interesting. The problem, though, is that theoretical computer science is very far, of course, from applications. And so after doing this for 7 years, I really wanted to do something more hands-on. So I particularly wanted to found a startup. I found it very exciting. I really wanted to know how it is to build a company, and particularly a tech company, to combine my knowledge and experience about tech with something much more hands-on. So I went to Berlin. I moved to Berlin, which has a big startup hub here in Germany. And during the next couple of years, I co-founded a couple of startups. That was very exciting for me. But at the same time, I also learned about blockchain technology. And I became very passionate to learn more about the achievements you can get done with blockchain technology itself, and also all the challenges that are in there. And I still find that there is so much opportunity and still so many challenges that need to be solved. So I started to find it very interesting and very exciting. And finally, I could join Satoshi Pay as CTO 4.5 years ago, and could really combine my passion for the startup field, for blockchain, and for technology. And so let me talk about what Satoshi Pay actually did at that time when I joined. At that time, Satoshi Pay was a solution for micropayments using Bitcoin. And of course, you can hear it in the name. Satoshi Pay means Bitcoin. And then we identified that clearly Bitcoin is not the right technology for micropayments, because first, it's just really slow, and second, it's just too expensive. It became really expensive at that time. So we were looking for other technologies, for other blockchains that we can use. And it became so obvious that Stellar is the perfect blockchain for micropayments. First, because it's super fast and much faster than Bitcoin at that time, obviously. And also the transaction fees are really low. So we started to work with Stellar, and we built different solutions on top of Stellar. Like the other major solution or product is D-Transfer, which is a cross-border payment solution for business to business. And again, Stellar is a great tool for that. And this time, particularly because of the great stable token support and fiat-backed stable token support in Stellar, where Stellar did a really great job in the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
And then last year, we actually looked at building a smart contract solution on top of Stellar, because we wanted to build automated market makers. Of course, now you have them in Stellar, but at that point in time, they didn't exist yet. And we were looking at Ethereum and saw that automated market makers provide all that great liquidity for exchanging tokens against other tokens. And that was actually a solution that we needed for D-Transfer. So we started to think about a second layer on top of Stellar with smart contracts. And that was the initial start for the Pendulum project. Then over time, this whole idea changed. And now we're actually building a blockchain as part of the Polkadot ecosystem. But still, we built a bridge to Stellar. So still Stellar is important because of the stable tokens. And what we actually want to achieve is that we want to connect all fiat networks to the whole DeFi ecosystem, and particularly to the Polkadot ecosystem.
Nice, 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 nice. So, why Polkadot? You mentioned that you looked at a couple of different blockchains, but what was it about Polkadot in particular? And shout out, we have a lot of friends out there actually. Shout out to Corey, good friend of ours from the Stellar ecosystem that's over at Polkadot. Why the Polkadot ecosystem? Why was that such a good match for what you guys are building?
Yeah, you never see how things are coming. So if we look back, we at that time were just looking for a technology to build a blockchain, because it was obvious that we don't want to build a blockchain from scratch like the people at Stellar did. You have to solve so many problems that are already solved in the meantime. So we wanted to start with a toolkit, and there's this great toolkit called Substrate, which is developed by Parity, the company behind Polkadot. And that's also the technology that Polkadot is built on. And we started to work with Substrate, and we explored whether it's the right technology to build our blockchain and to build a bridge to Stellar. And it worked out really great. So it's a lot of fun. It's very powerful. There's so much work happening. And once you work with Substrate, you of course also look at Polkadot because it uses that technology. And at the beginning, we didn't plan to become part of Polkadot. But then once you start to build with Substrate, you get all the advantages from Polkadot to be a blockchain inside the Polkadot ecosystem already out of the box. And it became so obvious that we want to become part of that system. It was very new at that point in time. Actually, Polkadot just went live in November last year. So right at that time, we also took the decision that we want to be part of that team or of that ecosystem. Because we think there are great projects there, and I think that the system Polkadot, how it connects blockchains to each other, how it can exchange tokens, how it can exchange technology, that's a really great idea, and I think it's very scalable, and I'm very excited about that decision.
Nice, nice, nice. Now, in the clip when we were starting this off, you made a clear case about Wasm, and I know that many in the Stellar community, that was once again Tomer made the announcement that Stellar's venture into layer 1 smart contracts was going to utilize the Wasm approach. Now, you also had a clear opinion on this as well. I'll be curious to kind of have you share that with the audience, because if I'm not mistaken, you used the words that Wasm is the future of smart contracts, and so I'm curious to why you felt that way.
So first we started to look into smart contract technology, particularly because that was the initial idea why we wanted to build Pendulum, because we wanted to have the smart contract layer. So from the beginning, it was clear that we want to have advanced smart contract technology. And at that point in time, we already looked at WebAssembly smart contracts. But I first maybe talk about what WebAssembly smart contracts are, so that it becomes more clear what I'm talking about. The original technology for smart contracts clearly comes from Ethereum, and those smart contracts are called EVM smart contracts. And almost every blockchain that has smart contract support uses EVM smart contracts. Of course, EVM smart contracts were a really great achievement, but they were, so to say, the alpha version of smart contracts. So some people came together and had the idea that, so I'm talking about the founders of Ethereum, they had the idea that a smart contract capable blockchain would be a great achievement, but they thought about a very simple solution for smart contracts, a very simple technology, and it turned out really great. But it's not really that powerful. It's not really scalable. It's really slow. It's really costly. The performance is low. And it becomes very obvious that there are much better ways to build smart contract technologies and engines. And one of them is WebAssembly. And WebAssembly is great, first because it's clearly much more performant, and I can talk about this also in a bit. But it also has wide adoption in browsers. It's like a great technology for the web, and it will power the next iteration of the web. Like if you want to play games in your browser and so on, WebAssembly gives you all the speed, all the performance. So it has really great support, and because it's really a widely adopted technology for the web, it's also really great to adopt that for smart contracts, because it's really so powerful, and it's really delivers everything that you need for smart contracts. So that's why I totally believe in WebAssembly as a smart contract technology. And actually, the founders of Polkadot, they also very much believed in that. For example, Gavin Wood, who's like the main founder, his idea was that WebAssembly smart contract would be the next iteration. He's actually also the author of the original yellow paper of Ethereum. So he was the one who originally defined the EVM engine. And he then said, it was a great achievement, but we need something better now. And he said, we need to go for WebAssembly smart contracts. And he's totally right about this, of course.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not the smartest guy in the bunch, but I think I'll listen to the person that originally created EVM and what he feels is the future. Now, I mean, I know that Ethereum was looking at doing Ethereum 2.0, and if I'm not mistaken, they were also looking at going into a WebAssembly smart contract for that as well. Am I correct on that?
Totally right. I mean, the problem is that Ethereum 2.0 might never happen. You know, they have been announcing this for many years. That's totally clear. Yeah, they plan to use Wasm, how they call it. That's the Ethereum version, so to say. They want to support that, and so even the team behind Ethereum thinks that WebAssembly is the right technology. So the signs are really great for WebAssembly.
Right.
The point is just that it's still very early, and most people that develop smart contracts, they still want to go for EVM, for the Ethereum version of them. And we need to see what happens in the next couple of years. And we also want to be a big part in this transition, process from EVM smart contracts to WebAssembly smart contracts. We want to be we want to lobby for WebAssembly smart contracts, so to say, and it's great to see that Stellar is doing the same, and that we can all work together on this new technology and convince the developers out there that they should adopt WebAssembly, so to say.
Well, it's one thing I love about doing this is that I get to talk to a lot of, like I said, really smart people in the ecosystem. And one person I get to talk to a lot is Fred, who you may know. He's the CEO of Lightman, and we had a conversation the other day, and he gave a great analogy. He said this is very similar to what he saw with Adobe Flash and HTML. And how people would there was a group that you would argue for Adobe Flash to be continue as the development platform, and I remember when Steve Jobs actually was one of the first to just say I'm not dealing with it. It was a big uproar, but ultimately, as we've seen, Adobe Flash is no longer. And everything is on HTML. So this, I think he's very, very acute in saying that this is very similar to what we've seen in the past with technology, and more than likely what would happen here.
I need to remember that quote. That's really great. And I think it's totally right. It's Flash is definitely the equivalent to EVM in that regard, because it was also not a real web standard, not a real adopted web standard. HTML is the web standard, JavaScript is the web standard, and WebAssembly is the web standard. So it's so close to that equivalent. But we still need a Steve Jobs who said that they will not support Flash anymore, and everyone will follow him. So this is still going to happen, but I feel like we're very close to that. It will probably happen this or next year, and then everyone will realize that now is the time. But it's actually
There you go. Yeah. Well, shout out to Fred, and we got to figure out who's going to be that Steve Jobs for us, and really go rogue and push this culture forward. Let's go ahead. Shout out to Stella.
Maybe it's actually Tomer from Stellar, because Stellar now decides to support WebAssembly but not EVM.
Hey, maybe it's Stellar that leads the way. Shout out to Stellar Proud. Yes, great show. I'm always learning as well. Shout out to Tyler Sears. Yeah, let's go. Michael Wasm. That's what I'm talking about. That's going to be on a t-shirt somewhere. So let's go a little bit further into Pendulum. That's what everyone wants to see and learn more about. Is it all right? I think that you had mentioned that you might be able to share some screen here and give us a little walkthrough of a couple projects that you guys have working on. Let me know if you're ready, and I can go pull that up.
Sure, just change. Just switch to my screen. So first,
Awesome.
I show you some slides and can explain a little bit about Pendulum and about its mission, and then I would like to show a demo about what it's doing, about our
Ooh,
current status.
demo. I like
Sure.
demos. Let's do it.
So let's first start. Let's first start with a pitch. Um, I already said that Pendulum is going to be a part of Polkadot. And I don't know whether everyone here in this podcast is familiar with Polkadot, but Polkadot is not just a blockchain, but it's actually a network of blockchains. So there are many different
Hmm.
blockchains that connect together. And in the center of the whole system is something called a relay chain. This is something that you could call the heart of Polkadot. And then all
Hmm.
the blockchains that connect to that network connect to this relay chain in the middle. And the other blockchains, they're called parachains. So when you're part of Polkadot, you are a parachain. And we want to become a parachain. So what's our mission? Our mission is to connect fiat networks to the DeFi ecosystem. And of course, DeFi is really great. There's so many developments there, but a lot of them focus on all kind of tokens, and we want to focus on fiat tokens, on stable coins, on fiat-backed stable coins, and on synthetic stable tokens maybe. And to be more precise or to be more specific, we want to focus on Forex. Forex, that
Hmm.
means exchanging fiat against fiat. This is such a big market, and most of Forex is still happening outside of blockchain. And it's a gigantic market, and it's very inefficient. The fees are incredibly high if you use the
It
traditional
is.
banking system, and so on. And blockchain technology is the solution for that, obviously, because you take out all the intermediary banks. Um, so if if you look at one example, which is a cross-border transfer, we can just look at this slide
Mm-hmm.
and show what happens. So if you look, this is a very simple view. This is already assumed that Pendulum would work directly with fintechs and banks in certain countries. But let's say you have a cross-border transfer from one region to another region, and then Pendulum would connect to those regions through on-ramps and off-ramps, direct on-ramps and off-ramps in those regions. Like this could be a fintech or a bank, and they would tokenize fiat currency, and on the other end would de-tokenize fiat currency. And then inside Pendulum, we would then exchange one token against another token, one fiat token against another fiat token with a Forex AMM. So we call it a Forex AMM because it's an AMM that's tailor-made for Forex. And when you make an AMM directly for Forex, you can optimize it, and you can, for example, optimize price curves for Forex, or you can have single-sided liquidity pools and so on. And we want to really focus on, for example, this Forex AMM and the Forex use case. But of course, we also want to connect to other blockchains. And one of
Mm-hmm.
them is Stellar. That's actually the first bridge we are building. But we also want to connect to other blockchains that have stable tokens. And we want to bring them into the Polkadot ecosystem. So right now we are building this bridge to Stellar that we call Spacewalk, or this generalized concept of a bridge. I don't want to go too much into that detail now because it gets too much like a tech presentation here. But maybe that's the right point to actually give a little presentation. And I can tell you where we are right
Yeah.
now with our project. So what we did so far is that we deployed our testnet. The testnet is live. The mainnet is not live because it can only go live once we are part of Polkadot, which only happens later this year. But the testnet version is live. And there's also a testnet version to Stellar, a testnet bridge to Stellar. So let me actually switch to this screen. And here we
Yeah.
built
And I
a
and I and I think
nice.
I think it's really interesting too. I mean, even like on that last screen that you showed, is the fact that I don't think a lot of people understand that Pendulum. I mean, Polkadot is a network of all these interconnectivities to different chains. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't become so clear, but Akala and A-star, for example, and Statement, these are parachains on Polkadot. As I said, the blockchains in Polkadot are called parachains, and a
Mm-hmm.
Pendulum is, so to say, the gate to the other chains because of the bridges here in this regard. Okay, so let me show you the simple example. This is a web app, or actually a D app that connects to our testnet, and this is really made for easy demoing and easy testing. So we have this really great tool here called a one-click setup. You just click that button, and then there's a lot happening in the background. There's an account set up for you. You get some tokens on that account so that you can just play around with them, but everything will take a couple of seconds. And once that is done, I can show it to you.
Nice.
Okay, it's already done. So here we actually created an account, a very fresh account on our testnet. And you see that this account doesn't have anything and no tokens. And what we show here is some USDC token and the Euro token. This is just for testing, and you see that the account doesn't have any of them. But it has 10,000 Pen tokens, and Pen tokens is the native currency. So that's what Lumis is for Stellar, is Pen for our network.
So let me pause you there, because I know that I'm gonna get 1,000 questions. Where can I go buy Pen tokens? Are Pen tokens available right now in the SDX?
I wanted to point this out before you said that, because it's really important.
Good.
Pen tokens are not yet available.
Say that one more time. Wait, one more time. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. All right. Want to make sure. I get that question about 1,000 times a day.
To make that very clear, whenever you see that there are Pen tokens, that someone wants to give you Pen tokens, it's 100% a scam at the moment. We are only live on testnet. We are not live on mainnet yet. That will only happen later this year. So please follow our website for official announcements. Okay.
Right. I already got a question here. Are legit Pendulum tokens to be had yet? No, there are no tokens that are available. Follow official Pendulum when it goes. Say that one more time. When it goes when it goes to mainnet later this year, then that opportunity will come up. But there's nothing right now.
Yeah, here's a roadmap, but let's not talk about those details, but it will only happen later this year. What we're doing is that we actually prepare a strategic round, but it's only for private investors. It's not for the public. It's not available for the public, only later this year. And please follow our official channels that you find on our website, pendulumchain.org. Okay, now I think I would actually like to show our bridge to Stellar, because that's the main feature I talked about. And when I did this one-click setup, I actually already provided I also created an example account on Stellar, and I minted and provided some example tokens, Euro token and USDC token. Of course, it's only testnet token, it's not real value, but these are actual Stellar tokens, and I have 100 of each of them. And what I want to do now is that I want to bridge some of them over to Pendulum. And this is very easy to do with this interface, which just is an interface to the bridge. So let's say I want to bridge over 40 euros from Stellar to Pendulum, and I just click that button, and that's it. It would take a couple of seconds, of course, because we only show the number once everything is finalized on Pendulum, and that can take a couple of more blocks. But you already see that we deducted 40 euros from the Stellar side, and then a couple of seconds later, we actually see that the 40 euros pop up on Pendulum, and it already happened. So, and I would also like to do the same with USDC. Let's say I just switch over 20 USDCs, and of course I can also move it back to Stellar, but I think it's quite obvious that this would then also work. I would rather like to actually use those tokens on the Pendulum side, because then I can talk about another topic, which is the AMM that we built. And it can actually show that you can really also exchange tokens here on the Stellar side, on the Pendulum side. So I just wait a couple more seconds for those tokens to appear in Pendulum.
And I think this is huge. I mean, it's like I remember, we went to the blockchain Paris Blockchain Summit, and just going through that exchange, it felt so. It hurt me so bad to be going to a blockchain summit and having to go through this old traditional way of Forexing, go transfer my money from one currency to the next. I can't wait until we get to a reality where this is as simple as online. So go ahead.
I'm also very excited. I find it already very exciting, obviously, but it's even more exciting once it goes live on mainnet and we deal with actual money, bridging that over. Yeah, but as I said, only later this year.
Awesome.
So let me show you this AMM. That's a very simple AMM. It's not super advanced. We are going to build, and we are going to have ecosystem projects that will really build very advanced, cutting edge AMMs. One of them is called Project Amber, which is an AMM tailor-made for Forex, but that's actually from the ecosystem. We are not going to build this ourselves, but it's the first ecosystem project. They're going to write and publish a white paper soon, so it's too early for me to go into any details, but it's really very exciting and very advanced. But what I want to show is this very simple AMM, and we made that one because we wanted to show that we can make an AMM built as a smart contract, so that everyone could just make their own AMM, just build your smart contract, deploy it to Pendulum, and you have your own AMM with your own features. So before we can use this AMM, we first need to actually supply some liquidity. And what I will do here is that I will provide 10 USDCs and 10 euros. And again, this will take a couple of seconds. We will optimize for this later, but at the moment it will take a couple of seconds because we only show the result once it's finalized. Finalization on this chain will take a couple of blocks. So the block is already processed, but we wait a couple of more blocks, and it might take 20 seconds or so. And then we actually have some liquidity on this AMM. What I did here is that I provided some USDCs and some euros. They are now in the AMM. It's already happening in the background. I think I can already show this. Yeah, I actually tested it before, so there's already a little bit of liquidity on this. You see it here, 30 USDCs and 30 euros. And I can actually now go ahead and swap. But before that, just let's make sure that everything is correct. Yeah, I now have about 30 euros and 10 USDCs, and now let's swap some money, some tokens. So let's say I want to, sorry, I get confused here. Yeah, I have more euros than USDCs. I want to have some more USDCs. So let's actually try to get some. So you receive USDCs. Okay, let's say I want to get 10 USDCs for 10 euros, and now I use the AMM to swap that. And again, it will take a couple of seconds, but at the end I will have my result, and then I will have.
So I mean, this is neat. Is that we can, people can create. I mean, you can create your own pools, your own markets. Essentially unilaterally, without having to really dive into some sort of larger market. You can create your own liquidity. Small groups, companies can leverage technology like this. Banking institutions can do their own lending and offer their own interest based off of this. Is that correct?
Exactly. There are so many opportunities and possibilities, but of course, at the moment, I just show the AMM because we have to start somewhere with our ecosystem. The AMM is, so to say, the kickstart of the ecosystem, because AMMs are super important for fiat, for stable tokens, and of course for Forex. And there will be a lot of features that will make it very easy for builders to build their own applications on top of Pendulum for fiat for fiat and stable token use cases. For example, oracles, price feed oracles that come with our project, and so on and so on. We're still very early phase, so I cannot go too much into detail yet. We will have many more announcements in the next couple of weeks and months. But let me just show you. Yeah, now I actually exchanged the euros for the USDCs using the AMM.
Okay.
I think that's it for the demo. That's good enough. You saw that.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's a great preview. I mean, it's awesome to get to see this. So what are we looking as far as I guess for those that are wanting to follow along? What is the best place for them to go? I got your website, pendulumchain.org. Is that that's the best site to go to, correct?
That's the best site to go to. Of course, it will link to all our socials. It will link to Twitter. That's where we have a lot of announcements. We have a Discord, which is linked to. We have a couple of Telegram channels for different kind of announcements, and I think these are the main channels. And if you want to know about any kind of news, we also have Medium. Of course, we regularly will write posts about technical deep dives about certain topics that are interesting. Actually, just yesterday, I wrote a blog post and published a blog post about WebAssembly versus EVM, about the performance. I made a big promise at the beginning of this podcast that I said WebAssembly is more performant, much more performant actually than EVM, and this blog post will actually prove it. So I don't want to talk too much about the technical details here, but everyone who wants to learn more about this, just go to our Medium and read about that.
Yes, I definitely will, because I'm fascinated with the developments that we've seen with Wasm, and I'm excited to hopefully, like I said, see that whole Adobe Flash type of encounter happen, and for all of us to be a part of it. So I'm excited for what you guys have been building. I'm excited to see the Stellar ecosystem have this bridge to have a lot more use case for the fiat tokens that exist. And I look forward to following what you guys are doing in the future as well. So, Torsten, I really want to thank you for joining. Thanks to everybody out there that's been watching. Once again, you can follow Torsten is also on Twitter, so you can follow him there. Is it just at Torsten? What's your Twitter profile?
It's actually called Torsten Move.
Torsten
People ask me
Move.
why, but it's Torsten Move. That's the name. We move forward.
There you go. So thanks everybody for watching again. This will be up on Spotify, so if you missed it, we will definitely make sure that you're able. Shout out to Michael. Yeah, thank you for watching, and everyone that's been joining in today. We will continue to bring more interviews. The next one up is actually going to be someone by the name of Jessica Porter. She is the head of Arttable, and they've got a fantastic a fundraiser in which they're using Stellar to raise money for their cause. So we're going to get to learn more about Arttable and their impact. Shout out to JPL. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you enjoyed it. To everybody else, stay tuned. Torsten, you hang on tight. We'll chat a little bit. For everybody else, we'll see you in a little bit. Take care.